Welcome back to another episode of the Fans Huddle podcast. We had a few new subscribers this week, so shout out to all of you guys. Thanks for the follow.
Thank you.
I'm here with Chris and Derek again, fellas. How we doing?
What's up?
Doing great.
Good week. Lots to talk about. A lot of things happening. We are right deep in the middle of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like we're at that midway point of the NFL and the kind of back end of college where things start to take shape. So
we got everything
exciting.
happening. We got World Series. We got NBA. We got college football. I mean, this is mid-October to early November is the best time of the year to be a sports fan. There's just, I mean, you know, your relationships kind of go to the wayside right now. So, because like there is something on every single night. There's something good on every night.
Yeah, I thought Nashville would be able to hang their hats on the Preds this year, but that doesn't look good either. So
rough start.
Our sports teams are not doing hot here in Nashville. But hey, better days ahead, guys. Better days ahead.
It's always hope.
Let's kick it off with college. Derek, I'll kick it to you. You want to talk about Texas A&M and LSU first, or?
Yeah, that's a great game to start at, actually.
We spoke about this one last week as being a big
I gave the edge to I had it at LSU because I thought they were the home team, but then Texas A&M was the home team, so I gave the edge to them. So they end up coming. Yeah, hey, I called it right, victorious. You know, kind of like the Alabama-Georgia game, right? It's like a tale of two halves. You know, the first half was, I thought, close game, very competitive. And then, second half, Texas A&M kind of ran away. They made the quarterback change. Kind of reminded me of the national championship game that Georgia was in against Alabama when they made the move from. Yeah, exactly. They could not stop the guy. He was just. Could not contain him inside the box. He made some big plays with his legs, and I think he completed, was it 2 passes?
He was 2 of 2 for 70 yards.
Yeah. And one of them was like a massive pass, big play. But Marcel Reed, hey, keep that name in mind. I think he was the X factor in that game.
Yeah, for Texas A&M, they lost week 1, and you just thought, all right, well, they're not going to be an impact this season. And now they're 5-0 in the SEC, 7-1, 14th ranked. Tough schedule, some tough, tricky games coming up. But I think you said it, Derek, on the weekend. They're a real chance of hitting that SEC championship game, and then you get there, and who knows?
Yeah, I thought it was a very gutsy call by the coach to make that change. And it worked out in their favor. LSU's a good football team. They are a very good football team, but Texas A&M controls their own destiny from here on out. And I keep saying that, right? But it's true. They have a good chance of making the playoffs after this game.
Do we think that it's a permanent quarterback change, or it was just, wasn't feeling it for that game? Chris, what do you think?
That's why I love. That's one of the things I do like of college football over NFL is these coaches are not afraid to pull the guys. And obviously in the NFL you can't do that because they're all divas and they're all making $50 million a year. No, I think they're still going to go. I think they're going to do a hot hand type thing. If it was me, I would interchange them because that's what you can do in college football. And I would put, who was the, I forget his name. I would put Connor, whatever his name is, was it Weigman? I would have him start the games. And if he's not doing well at the beginning, then yeah, you just put Marcel Reed in there. But if he goes in there and he's, they're winning the game and he's throwing the ball accurately, then you leave him in there. I don't think it's going to hurt by playing both guys. We've seen it done in college football before, and it seems to not have any effect on these guys' confidence or what have you.
Yeah. There's just some games where you're not feeling it. You're not in rhythm. You're not in sync with your receivers, and maybe your passes are a bit off. And
Brian Kelly, come on, man. This guy, how do you not make any adjustments? I know you were talking about that. Remember, Mark, you're talking about the Alabama-Georgia game, and you were like, how do you not put a spy in there? They went, so if you look at Texas A&M drives, all right, they went punt, fumble, touchdown, punt, downs, punt. And then as soon as they put Reed in, they went touchdown, field goal, end of game. And it was the same things happening over and over. Reed was scrambling for big games. They ran for like 250 yards. I just don't get. Brian Kelly has been I mean, he's been all around long enough. Why is he not making any adjustments to counteract that? And they just got run off the field in that second half. I just don't. I mean, LSU fans got to just be pulling their hair out. They had an amazing opportunity to take that game, and they just gave it away because they could not react to changing the quarterback. So
Well,
I don't know. Derek, you had said it. You said that quarterback had played during the season. It's not like it was an unknown that he might come into the game, you know?
Yeah, that's where I kind of get confused. Like, there's obviously pre-game adjustments, right? Like things you do prior to the game. There's halftime adjustments, and then there's adjustments in game, right? Like currently in game, and they didn't make any adjustments. I mean,
No.
Yeah, I mean, just bad on Brian Kelly and the coaching staff there. But yeah, they should have prepared for both quarterbacks. You know, they did not prepare for Marcel Reed, and then he got put in game in the second half, and they were just I'm baffled, I guess.
Yeah, have fun with your bowl game, LSU, because you ain't gonna be in the playoffs. I would imagine not after that one.
Yeah, that looks like it's LSU done, but Texas A&M stays in it. Oregon stays number one. Another big blowout victory. This time 38-9 against Illinois, who Illinois was a ranked team, so this was, tricky for them. And Dylan Gabriel again, 18 of 26, 291, 3 tuds. This game was over by halftime, 35-3. I know Oregon started slow this season, and people weren't really taking them seriously, but I think now I think they deserve that number one spot at the moment, and they're really coming into their own. Derek, what'd you make of this one?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot closer than what it was. I didn't really have this one dialed in, but Oregon came out and put together a pretty good game plan. Dylan Gabriel is he's like a Swiss Army knife, man. He's got so many tools, and he's such a talented quarterback. I don't think a lot of people, I know people give him credit, but I don't know if he's not an overrated quarter. I feel like if anything, he's underrated. I mean, this kid has done nothing but win. He was at UCF, won there, went to Oklahoma, won there. Now he's at Oregon. He's winning there. I like him. And again, Dan Lanning, head coach, under Kirby Smart at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Great coach. And I think I said this prior to on our first podcast. There's good things ahead for Oregon, and they keep continuing to prove people wrong in many cases. And I think they're a talented team, and they have a good shot at a championship this year. I mean, they really do.
Yeah, it'd be pretty big for them coming into the Big Ten and winning that in their first year and going to the playoffs. Exciting. Dylan Gabriel had a rough start to the season, I would say. He threw, for every 5 good plays, he'd have a silly interception or, a red zone interception. But he's really, leveled out, and yeah, he's playing. I think him and Cam Ward probably the 2 best quarterbacks in the nation right now. They're looking really good.
Yeah,
Chris.
Yes. Why are you laughing?
Have they got your respect yet? As a Big Ten team, do they have your respect?
All right. So the good, I'll say, they can, if there's any team that can book their ticket to be in the top 12, it's Oregon. They don't play any more ranked teams the rest of the year. They'll obviously have the Big Ten championship. But I would say if they go undefeated and lose the Big Ten championship, they're still going to be in the top 12, obviously. Yep. Mm-hmm. And you look at next week, I mean, they are playing on the road at Michigan, and they are 14.5-point favorites. So, I mean, and that's pretty much their toughest test, you could say, the rest of the way. Until they play SEC, I want to see them in the playoffs. They absolutely deserve the number 1 ranking. They deserve their flowers right now. But at the same time, they haven't played anybody. They get the advantage. They got an easy schedule. Like they're not going to be beating the crap out of each other like these SEC teams are. So they definitely have an edge going into a playoff scenario when there's not as much time off now as there was in the past between the end of the season and the beginning of the bowl game or the top 4 or whatever. So it's all in there. It's all in their hands. If they blow it, then yeah, we can revisit it. But no, that's fine. They deserve what they have right now. I'm not going to argue with anything that people want to suck up to Oregon.
And I think Mark made a good point. I mean, this is kind of what you want to see out of a good football team. They started off slow, but they've gradually gotten better every week. And not many programs can say that. I mean, There's a lot of programs right now going up and down from week to week, but Oregon has gotten consistently better, and that's what you want to see. And it will be interesting if by chance Georgia and Oregon do make it to the national championship game, having Dan Lanning as our head coach and knowing the guy who pretty much ran that defense for quite a while, it would be interesting to see that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see kind of what's going on over there. So, I don't know. Yeah, they got to play SEC team.
That's true. I'm showing love to Oregon, though.
Yeah. All right. And then Derek, what'd you think of Texas and Vanderbilt? I know I had talked about this game last week. I want to see how Texas kind of responded. That game ended up being Texas came out, but then Vanderbilt they kept it a game, and it came down to the end right there. Do you think it was a little bit of a hangover for Texas? Do you think they were a little overrated, before they played Georgia? Or what do you think about Texas? You still think they're a top 12 contender?
I do think they're still a top 12 contender. It is hard to say if it was a hangover or, hey, I'm going to give Vanderbilt right now, honestly, I will give so much credit to Vanderbilt. One thing you say about their team is like they fight and they fight hard. And they played to me, I thought they played a pretty good football game. Their quarterback is a competitor. I like that kid. But yeah, it's hard to say, like, what is it a hangover or is Texas, like we said, has not played any competition. They run into Georgia, they lose, they play another, I wouldn't even say top SEC team, but a decent SEC team, and they're struggling. Yeah, that is not good at this point in the season. So and I believe, I don't know what their schedule looks like, Chris. Do you know?
So they're on a bye this week, and then they play Florida at home. They go to Arkansas. They have Kentucky at home, and then they finish the season at Texas A&M. That's their that's their last game, which that game's going to have big, it's going to have big repercussions, that game, than probably in the last few years between those two teams.
Yeah, like if they're going into it like both one-loss teams. Yeah,
if they're both kind of on the borderline of being in the top 12, maybe, not even for the SEC championship, but to be that next, maybe that third team, in the SEC to try to make a bid or what have you, it could have huge repercussions. Yeah, hey, you want SEC? You got it, guys. Y'all wanted to join the big boys. Now you're here.
And honestly, Texas had a pretty favorable schedule compared to a lot of the other SEC teams. I mean, they had it pretty easy. If you look at some of these other schedules. So it's only going to get harder from here for Texas. You know what I mean? Like the years to come, like their schedule is going to get harder. So there was a year for them to actually pull something off. I feel like this really needs to be your year if you're going to go deep. I mean, with the schedule you guys got handed. So,
yeah. And then the last game that I want to talk about, see if you had anything else, but Alabama. Can we make anything of Alabama? I can't figure out what this team is. I can't tell if they're the best team or the worst team. And they blew Missouri out of the water 34-0. I mean, help me make sense of this. I don't know what to do with this team at this point.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of factors here. Missouri is a pretty beat up team right now. They do have a lot of injuries. They got blown out by Texas A&M too. Yeah. If you remember, that's when they were ranked number 9. I think Missouri's a pretty good football team, but yeah, Alabama is hard. It is hard to read them. It started off slow too. Like that game started off really pretty slow in the first quarter, but then Alabama just kind of gradually pulled away. I will say, I saw some fiery, some attitudes going on out there from the coaching staff. Kalen DeBoer, I mean, he was on top of that one kid late in the game.
I think he's probably listening to all of his pundits out there ripping his team for his. He had no discipline, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think he's had enough of hearing that. So I think he was showing like, hey, I got to do something here, and he ripped into him, and that's a good sign.
Yeah,
I don't know what to think of. I mean, they beat us. I mean, they came out guns blazing against us. So I don't know. We'll see. Such a hard team to read.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. They still have to play LSU, and then they have Auburn the last game of the season. But I don't know. They played Mercer after LSU. God, poor Mercer. What are we doing to those guys? Why are they getting them 3 weeks before the end of the season? But yeah, if they ran the table and they beat everybody by 30 points, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that.
But that's my question to you. Does a loss to Vanderbilt and a loss to Tennessee, if they run the table, does does Alabama have enough pull and like brand right now, like enough that they've done over the Saban era to be like the committee being like, we're going to put Alabama in?
I think it depends on what Georgia does the rest of the year, right?
Yeah.
If Georgia rocks the rest of the season and their only loss is to Alabama, that gives Alabama a lot of firepower to say we deserve to be there too. So that's what I would say about that. Mark, you had something?
No, I was gonna say the same thing. A win
Yeah.
over Georgia is a big thing, and I do think a two-lost SEC team could make it.
Yeah.
They're just gonna go. They're gonna play well. They're gonna play better than how they're playing now. But if you look around that part of the table, like LSU is 16th, and they're a two-loss team already. So there's an opportunity for them, but it's not too exciting right now to be a Bama fan.
Yeah, I think there's definitely room for two lost teams. I think it's just for me, like you guys have a good point, right? It's like about their victory over Georgia. But on the flip side, you look at who their losses to, which one bad loss to Vandy, I understand that. And Tennessee's so far a pretty good team, but if Tennessee does get beat by Georgia, then they become a two-loss team. It gets really tricky, like which SEC teams are the committee going to vote? Because you're going to have some two-loss SEC teams get in. It's a matter of which ones are you going to allow to get in,
Yeah, it's that subconscious bias where it's like you're going to put in a higher program just because they're a higher program, right? You're going to give Alabama the benefit of the doubt just because they're Alabama, over Texas A&M or what have you, just because it's Alabama. And I mean, that's not the way it should be, but that's just the kind of the way it is, right? So same with the Big Ten, right? The Ohio States of the world, the Michigans of the world, they'll always get the benefit of the doubt over, the Iowas and the Indianas and the Illinois and all those teams.
Yeah. How long do you think the win over Georgia lasts? And what I mean by that is, does momentum going into the playoffs, the last 5 or 6 games, does that weigh more than a loss against Vanderbilt from 6 weeks?
I think you definitely want to lose early than late. Because it's just that recent memory bias with these voters too. You could have the same 2 losses, but if you lost the first couple weeks of the season and then you run the table the last 8 games, I don't know. They just give you more. It seems like the voters give you more leeway with that. That's what I see.
I mean, we saw a perfect situation of that Georgia last year. 1 loss came in the SEC championship game, last game of the season, and didn't make it into the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think if they would have had that loss early on in the year, they probably would have gotten into the playoffs.
Yeah. It's
Derek, were there any more games you want to talk about from last week before we move on to next week?
No, I think we can move on. There wasn't,
okay.
I was looking at, there wasn't really any upsets. That's what I love about college football, but it looks like everybody kind of took care of business this past week, which is a good thing.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I know we've shouted out Indiana for the last 2 weeks, but I heard a stat on the weekend. They are the only team in college football history through 8 games to never trail in a game. So they're doing really well. Keep it going. They're 13th now. Keep winning, keep moving up. But I want to keep the Indiana love going for another week. So shout out.
Yeah. And I think there was, as far as the rankings, I just want to go those real quick. I think there's a few teams that moved into the top 25.
Colorado.
Yep, Colorado's got number 23 ranking. They've moved in there. Back to Indiana, to your point, Mark. They've moved up to number 13.
13, yeah. Notre Dame and A&M are the big movers. They both moved up 4. Notre Dame trounced Navy on the weekend, and we all were kind of hoping, but they look good. And A&M obviously had a big win, so
we didn't talk about Miami either, but they're still undefeated, and obviously
they're still hanging out there.
The quarterback's playing really well.
They play that great Florida State team.
It's a rivalry, man. That's a rivalry.
Yeah, it's something. It's something.
Miami
all right.
with Cam Ward, can beat anyone, I think. Like, they might not be the most well-rounded team, but when you have a quarterback like that, I wouldn't want to face him anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
total game changer.
And I'd love Colorado to go on a run and make the playoffs just for the theater. I think it'd be cool to see the Sanders family and all that go up against someone in the SEC. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. And I think Travis Hunter has a really good shot at Heisman, to be honest with you. I really do.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be hurt, and he's came back quick, and he's playing well.
Yeah.
And I guess just to round out for college football, and then I guess we can move on. I just want to say game of the week this upcoming week, Ohio State and Penn State, number 4 versus number 3. That ought to be a really good game. Yeah, that has implications too. I mean, big time. Penn State to prove something, but also Ohio State cannot afford a second loss.
Exactly. A lot of implications on this one. I always like calling out the playoff implication matches every week, and this is definitely one.
Well, that's one of those ones. Like I said, if Penn State loses this game, like they're like people are going to be like they were a fluke, they were fake, they weren't real. So like in my opinion, they have to win this game if they want to be considered to make it to the playoffs. You know, it might not be fair. But
yeah, it's like Penn State and Tennessee, like those programs, it's like they get a little, they do like, it's like if they lose, it's like, well, same old Penn State, same old Tennessee, you know, compared to like a Georgia, Alabama, they lose, they're like, well, they lost, but I mean, they're still a great program.
Yeah.
They almost don't get the benefit of the doubt. They really don't. And I feel for their fans at times. I really do.
Beaver Stadium is going to be rocking Saturday afternoon, so that's going to be a good atmosphere. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, not a lot of marquee matchups, so not a lot of big ones. There's always a little lull in some before we start getting to all those like late end of season games, and then the rivalry games, obviously championship games, and all that kind of stuff. So might see some upsets. We never know. In college football, we might say it's going to be a boring weekend, then all of a sudden, you know, a South Carolina might be a Texas A&M, or you know, a Michigan State might pull off an upset against Indiana or something like that crazy. So I hope Florida, you know, I hope that Florida cannot compete against Georgia.
I was going to say, like, it's kind of sad that it's Georgia, Florida, and we're like, no real big games this weekend. You never know.
Florida fans have been chirping. They've been chirping lately out there. So hopefully Georgia can put them in their place.
I did want to talk about that game so bad, but I was like, you know what? We're not going to. We're going to skip that one for this week, and we'll just see how it plays out.
I do think that 17.5 is a very generous line for I thought maybe 14, 10, 17. I mean, do we think Florida's that bad? And they've been a little frisky.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet 16 and a half.
I will say this. I mean, they were out of the first game against Miami, right? They got blown out. They pretty much played a pretty competitive half with Texas A&M, and then they ended up getting blown out a little by Texas A&M. But I will say this. The last few weeks, they've been very competitive. They blew out Kentucky. They took Tennessee to the wire, took an overtime for Tennessee to win that game. And they have the hardest schedule in all of college football. So they have played stiff competition so far.
Yeah.
So, as much as I want to say this game, I expect for it to be more competitive than a 17-point favorite. I'll just say it that way. So Georgia needs to come ready to play.
Yeah. I think it's just Georgia fans are very like by the moment, and when their team wins, they get excited. I think that's just money being put on the dogs to win the game out of excitement, out of beating Texas. You know, so I think that's why the spread's so wide.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on.
I think we covered a lot there. Yeah, I think we're
going
good.
to Sundays. Let's go to Sunday. Chris, I'll kick it off with you. The first thing I want to talk about, because we spoke about it a few weeks ago, didn't speak about it last week, but the Battle of the Rookies.
You were ready. Hey, you knew it was going to happen because you were talking about it a week before the game was even supposed to be played. You knew it was going to come down to the last play.
Sure, we'll say it's that and not my incompetence of checking a schedule. But it was an awesome finish. I was watching it, like my jaw dropped. I was like, oh, I had to catch myself. What a finish. And what a game.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about this game? I mean, there were so many like emotions with this thing. I'll start off with, regardless of what the score was, Caleb Williams did not play well. He did not look good in this game. He
In the
actually
first
played
half.
a real what? Well, I mean, he was 10 of 24 for 131 yards, so
Okay, maybe not
that's
that well.
not good. Okay. And he had a great running game. Swift ran for 129 yards. They ran for 200 yards as a team, so that wasn't the problem. He just ran into a good defensive coach that had a good defensive scheme against him, but his defense kept him in the game. And I mean, we can go straight to that last play. I don't. There's a lot of things I don't get about the play. Okay, first of all, I don't understand on these Hail Marys why you only rush. They rushed 3 guys and then they had a spy. Why the hell do you have a spy on the quarterback on a Hail Mary? What is that spy going to do? He's not gonna sneak it. So I just don't understand that
And he's
defensive
not
call
going to
at
run
all.
at 50 yards. Like,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
Rush to the guy. Rush to the guy.
You have a spy.
You disagree?
If he gets through, and the laterals start to come into play, it's a free for all. You want to make sure that
They didn't have anybody to catch a lat. They had 5. It was for him and 5 offensive linemen back there. There were no running backs.
So say if Jaden Daniels gets through the rush, and now it's just him and everyone in the goal line, all of a sudden you're pulling people out of position, and things get all crazy. You have a spy there. You keep him behind the line of scrimmage, so his only option is to throw it. Everyone's in position. Obviously, it didn't work out here.
Okay, all right. So we disagree with that. Can we agree that if you have multiple timeouts and you see your defensive back there talking to the fans, that maybe you should call a timeout and get on the same page? Can we agree that that should have happened?
I mean,
and by the
he
way,
a Georgia boy, Derek?
Tyreek Stevenson was a Georgia Bulldog. He ended up his career at Miami Hurricanes, and now I see why.
Oh, yeah.
I see why he ended up at Miami, because Kirby Smart probably was like, you go ahead and go to Miami. I mean, what was the guy thinking? I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's not all on him, but it's not a good look. And also, like, why is there ever a Commander player behind 5 Chicago Bears? Even if that pass gets completed, it's short of the goal line. It's the tip with allowing someone to get behind.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Coaching and culture matters in the NFL. I've had disagreements with people about this. Be like, oh, they're not the Bears because they have good players. That only takes you so far. Matt, their coaching is bad. It's terrible. And I just don't see, even if Caleb Williams becomes this guy that some people think he's going to be, I don't see Chicago changing their future. I mean, they can win 8 games. They can win 9 games. That's fine. But if they want to be a Super Bowl contender, this coaching staff is going to have to go. You can't allow things like that to happen. If you have a timeout, somebody has to see the guy out there waving to his bros out there in the stands and call a timeout. It's unforgivable. It's just unforgivable in that moment. I just can't believe we're talking about that in an NFL game, that actually happened in an NFL game. It's just mind-boggling to me.
And the implications are crazy because
huge.
They're both on. I mean, Washington lead their division, but they're in a tough division. The Eagles are there. It could be this game could decide a 7th place in the Wild
Chicago
Cup.
plays in the hardest division in football, and they've not played a single divisional game yet. They still got Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit twice. They got 6 of their last games are against those 3 teams. Good luck, buddy.
That's gonna be tough.
Now, and I would say Jaden Daniels, come on, man. Give him all the flowers. I mean, that guy is it's good vibes. He's an amazing leader. I still don't think this team is a Super Bowl contender this year, but man, if you're a Commanders fan, you just got to be so excited for your team right now that the future is bright in Washington. They have a good young team. They all love their coach, and that quarterback is I just think he's going to get better and better.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels he's the real deal. They got them a quarterback there in Washington for sure. So, I guess the Bears defense kept them in the game, like you said, Chris, right? Like kept them and then gave it away. It's like they taketh and they giveth,
Yeah.
That's how it played out.
I saw a video of like these 3 Commanders fans after the game, and they've all got Jaden Daniels jerseys on, and they've all got tags on. So they've watched this. They're just so hyped. They've had nothing to cheer about for what seems like a decade, and they've just gone, "Let's go. This is my guy." I really hope.
And I'm glad Daniel Snyder sold that team because he should not. He does not deserve to enjoy the glory of what this team's about to do because he was the worst owner in sport.
Yeah. This I love. So you have Terry McLaughlin, whose cap number is $24.1 million. Then you have Darren Payne, whose cap number is $21.6 million. Then next cap space is Andrew Wiley, $9.4 million. These guys have got space. So I really hope that after this year, they go
in.
And they go all in, and they take advantage of having Daniels on a rookie contract, and
they need to shore up that defense and add another receiver. And I think this team can go somewhere. Maybe solidify the offensive line a little bit more. So you got to keep Jane Daniels upright. Obviously, he's already got that rib injury. You do not want him taking hits. He's a little undersized. You got to protect him. You have to protect him and protect him from himself, because without him, the team only will go as far as he can take them. He has to be upright and be on the field, and they can go places for sure.
All right, next topic. I want to rewind it back to Thursday night, and I want to resurface a quote from you, Chris, in a text chain about the referees and Derek. I'm sure you saw this. Sam Darnold, the Vikings played not a good game, and they were behind. They were out. They have a chance to win it late. Sam Darnold is grabbed by the face, head twisted around. 2 referees in the end zone, and however many else out there on the field missed it. Terrible call. Terrible no call. Cost them the game. Now, again, it's not their fault, the referee's fault, that the Vikings couldn't play well enough to put them in position, but the chance was taken away from them. Chris says he's comfortable with the no call because the referees said they couldn't see it. So it's not the issue that how many umpires and referees are on the field? 7? That's fine. If none of them see it, I'm comfortable with the call. What, Chris, explain yourself.
I don't know if no one saw it.
That's what Chris said.
I know. But we're not them. How do we know that none of the rest saw it? I mean, because that's what they said.
It's even worse if they didn't see it.
Well, we ought to believe them if that's what they said. I mean,
see,
come on. I mean, no,
gotta believe.
Listen, I can't even talk about refs. The last few weeks there's been some serious calls, and I'm really questioning where they're getting some of these guys from. Like at this point, like let's go put our costume on and let's go walk out onto the field. I think us 3 could probably do pretty decent compared to some of these refs. I mean,
yeah, they're getting paid $200,000, I think it is, and they're not full time. So a lot of these guys have other jobs. They're teachers. They're like part-time accountants. Like they just supplement their time with another job. If you're paying them $200,000 a year, I would have them in the classroom Monday through Wednesday, watching film, training, even in the gym, because running around in that, you can get a bit of fatigue, and keeping yourself level-headed and aware is a skill. So I don't know what they do during the week. I'm sure they do some reviews, but they've got to get better. Chris, again, if this had happened to the Packers, would you have been comfortable with the call?
Absolutely. I would have the same exact opinions that absolutely I would.
Have been livid.
No. Here's the problem I have, because after I sent that text, everybody was like, well, you always complain about the refs all the time. What I complain about the refs is when they throw a flag on a penalty that didn't happen. I think it is much more egregious to throw a flag on something that physically didn't happen, that they thought they saw, than to not throw a flag on something that they didn't see. I mean, it's a totally different thing. If they said they didn't see it, I watched the game live. I couldn't see a face mask till they showed the replay. It looked like he grabbed him around the neck. So if I'm watching it on TV and I didn't see it, one guy says there was players blocking his view, and the other ref said that it was turned the other way from him and he couldn't see it. So what would have been worse to y'all if they had thrown a flag and they show the replay and there was no face mask because he got him around the neck because the guy didn't see it, or if they don't throw a flag because they honestly didn't see it? And the thing about a face mask on that play, he was going to get sacked regardless. You don't get a do-over because you held onto the ball too long and you were going to get sacked regardless. It didn't impact the outcome of the play. It's not like a hold where like a guy wouldn't have ran for 50 yards if there wasn't a hold. It's not a pass interference where the guy would have caught the ball if there wasn't pass interference. Sam Darnold was going down regardless because he sucks and they blew that game. So I don't feel like giving him a pass, and I agree with the rest. I do not want to see them throw flags on stuff they said they didn't see, and I don't want them to throw flags on stuff that didn't happen. That's the problems that I had with the refs. I had no problem with it. If it happened to Green Bay, I would have said the same thing. They don't deserve to win that game, and you just move on with your life.
But how do you not see it when the 7?
I don't know. I mean, they're the eye level of the players. These players are 350-pound linemen. So, I mean, I don't know. That's what they said. Why would they lie and say, yeah, we saw a clear face mask, but we just decided not to call it? I mean, what's
well, they're not going to say that. They're not going to say that. But I agree with Mark. Like, if you put yourself in a position to see stuff like that, you got to.
That's what they're there for.
So if you didn't see it, that's on them.
There's missed penalties. There's missed calls on every single play in an NFL game. That one might have been a little more egregious and more obvious to see. There's holes. There's pass interference. There's illegal motions. There's offsides. There's 50 plays in a game that could be a penalty called on them. Like, nobody's crying foul about any of those, but because of the situation it was in, all of a sudden it's this big egregious thing. It happens so many times a game. Then like, they don't see a million things in the game.
Yes. 2019 NFC Championship game. The Saints are moving down the field. Drew Brees throws it. Biggest pass interference of all time. They changed the rules that coming out of it, but the referees missed it because they didn't see a pass interference. Is that okay?
Sure.
Cost them a trip to the Super Bowl.
So what y'all are telling me is y'all want to see more penalties thrown in the games. That's what y'all are telling me. We are getting 25 penalties a game, slowing down the game, impacting every single game.
That's opposite what I want to see, but what I want to say on play, there are certain plays you got to call. There are certain things you cannot miss, and you got to call it, especially in a critical situation of a game.
Do you know what I want to say, Chris? I don't want to see the outcome of a game the biggest talking point is a call that a referee's made or missed. I don't care which way it goes. Either way. You make a call.
Well, they're not going to be.
Or you miss a call.
I mean, they're not going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes every single game. I would just rather have them make mistakes by not throwing a flag than throwing a flag. And maybe that's just a difference of like philosophy or what have you. I just think there's just way too many penalties thrown in the NFL, and I just think it slows down the game. And I don't have a problem with it.
There's moments you have to call certain stuff though, and there's not moments like. They throw so many flags on petty stuff, but that was a pretty big one that they met. All I'm saying is, do I want to see more flags? No. But is there certain parts of the game that are critical where a flag needs to be, when something happens and it's pretty big, like it needs to be called? Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Chris, I know there's pass interference on pretty much every play. Wide receivers, defenders fighting for balls. I know there's late hits on quarterbacks. I mean, I know there's holding from the offensive line on the defensive line. I get it. But there are situations in games where you got to be on top of on a call. And you got to know when those moments are. You know what
Packers
I mean?
and Aaron Rodgers' first playoff run. They went to overtime versus Arizona. Packers got the ball. Rodgers got strip sack, face mask. It was returned for a touchdown. Game was over. I had no problem with it. He held into the ball too long. He fumbled the ball. They touched his face mask and they didn't call it. Like, if you want to win the game, you got to play better. You put yourself in bad situations, bad things are going to happen to you. So
that's an offsetting thing.
No, I agree with Mark. I mean, I see both sides of it. I do want to say this is kind of funny, and it's kind of off topic, but it's back to college football. But it's with referees. Did you see? There's an article. I don't know if it's a rumor or this is true, but there was a referee in the Alabama and Vanderbilt game that is also an Auburn basketball broadcaster.
Interesting.
But he refereed in the game, and they're talking about how that could be a conflict of interest. I think so. I mean, Auburn and Alabama rivalry is pretty big.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They have this debate with the English Premier League all the time. They're like, "Oh, the referee grew up in Manchester. He can't referee this team." Like, it's a massive thing. I don't know. Where do you draw the line? I mean, a basketball commentator for Auburn is probably on this side of the line of maybe it is a little bit of conflict of interest, but it is what it is. But the Rams, quickly, big win for them. They got some guys back. Stafford looked good again, 4 touchdowns. I think they could be a sneaky threat for not just the NFC West, but the playoffs too.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's not saying a whole lot right now. No offense, Seattle man, but that's the worst division in the NFC.
Yeah,
that's not
which
great.
is we weren't saying that at the beginning of the year, but
no, they can make some noise, but I mean, have they shown anybody they can stay healthy? I mean, that's one win over Minnesota. I mean, they got to string some games along before I can say they can contend for anything, you know?
Yeah,
so I think Minnesota, we had talked about Minnesota kind of starting to dip a little bit. So I don't know if you put too much stock into that game, but they gotta prove that they can consistently do that for, I would say, they're any kind of contender.
Okay. Let's talk about Eagles and Bengals, because that was a bit of a shock for me. A few weeks ago, we were saying Sirianni could be done. So now I want to ask, Chris, is Zach Taylor in the hot seat?
No, I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I think he's proven too much in the past that he's a good coach. And Cincinnati, I don't know. There's just an off vibe with the Bengals. It's been like that all season, and they just can't seem to string together any other wins. Joe Burrow still thinks they got a chance. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you say? They were gonna. He seemed confident that they could pull it together and string some wins together. But I don't know if he'll be fired this year. I would need to see. You know, he kind of gets a pass for the former Burrow injuries, but I personally wouldn't fire him this year. I don't know. Cincinnati is a dysfunctional franchise. They might. I think he's a good coach. And I think you need to see multiple seasons of regression before I, kick him out of there.
Yeah, it's just they were in the Super Bowl, then they were in the AFC Championship game. Then they lost the season when Burrow got injured. But this year, you had a lot of people riding them. They lost to the Patriots. They're 0-4 at home. You got to do better than that.
I just think, it just seems like offense isn't their issue, though, right? I mean, I know they didn't score a lot of points this week, but offensively, Joe Burrow's looked really good, and they've looked really good as a team. Their defense is just atrocious this year. Who's their defensive coordinator? I mean, did they get somebody new, or who they got over there right now? Because they're not doing the job. I don't know who it is. I don't spend a lot of time looking at the all 22 in Cincinnati, but they're struggling. I mean, they made Jalen Hurts look like Super Bowl Jalen Hurts over here, and the Bengals are the Eagles are they're starting to make some noise in the NFC all of a sudden.
Yeah, they got AJ Brown and Devontae Smith back. Derek, it makes Jalen Hurts a better player, obviously. Saquon Barkley is Saquon Barkley. Do you think that they could make a run? I mean, they're definitely in the division race, and NFC's been pretty weak otherwise. So wild card spots up there for them.
I don't see why not. It's like they have it ahead of them. They're in a good position, 5-2. I mean, having, like you said, having Smith and Brown back is a big one. I mean, they look like a totally different team without those two guys in. I mean, they literally. That's what drives that offense. And Jalen looks way more comfortable when he has those two guys in than when he doesn't. So, yeah, they have a very talented offense. I think to me, it's like, what is their defense going to do? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they've gone. Always kind of the question.
They were the 26th ranked defense last year. Right now, they're 7th. So getting Fangio in there, and obviously that was the big issue last year. I mean, having number going from 26 to 7, that's huge. That's huge for them. Yeah. And they've turned it around in a hurry. So I don't know. Yeah, they got the talent. They just got to put it together with the coaching.
Yeah. And they're 5-2. So to be 5-2 and have people questioning if they're going to be a good team or not, that means they're a good team, so they could really make a run. Your boy Chris, Aaron Rodgers, he's turned
No, not your boy. Your boy. Your boy.
He's turned to Cayenne Pepper and Water to make himself feel better.
Oh my God, this is just like a bad sitcom. All right, keep going.
What was the stat? The stat was like anytime a team had scored,
held the other team under like 250 yards of total offense and no turnovers.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Well,
yeah,
like
they had lost
56 and 0.
Yeah, they had lost in like 60. No team that has given up less than 250 yards and not turned the ball over one time has lost in like 70 years. 70 or 70.
Yeah,
that's just. That. And to me, it falls on Rodgers. Their offense looked awful. He didn't look great. He's not moving around. Chris, I'll give you the platform again to cheer his demise.
I mean, it's just like the rich getting richer. You want to make me happy. I mean, the Jets are just giving me everything I could ever ask for and more. And here's the problem with the Jets. It's not their talent. It's not their team. It's not their players. It's not that they're in New York. It's because Aaron Rodgers puts so much pressure on other people to perform. This team is pressing. They are scared to death that they're going to lose their jobs or Rodgers is going to throw them under the bus. And so they're not playing complete team football. They're just not playing football at cohesive as a group. And I didn't know it at the time, but Robert Saleh was the best coach on that staff. He was. And now that he's gone, their defense, Drake May got concussed and Jacoby Brissett came in there and they put 25 points on him and they didn't give up any turnovers. Like, what are y'all doing? The team is it's just so bad. It's not fixable. The season is done. Devontae went from a dysfunctional team to another dysfunctional team. Aaron Rodgers, I feel like he's on the verge of just like giving up and quitting on this team and quitting on his career. And it just gets uglier and uglier for this team. And it's just a sad, sad state of affairs. That's all I got to say about that. Silence.
I mean, I was just going to say, like, I was thinking about this the other day and how I picked them to win the division. And I felt like a big old idiot. Obviously, like, I take pride in being a pretty big football fan. I definitely got that one wrong. And I agree with you, Chris. Like, I think you nailed it. Like, the common denominator factor in all this is Aaron Rodgers. And like you said, like, you can move all the pieces and it still crumbles. And they got rid of their head coach. They changed coordinators. They brought players in. They've taken players out, all to what, the liking of Aaron Rodgers. And they are sitting here 2-6, look like one of the worst football teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's sad, man. And I had a lot more hope in these guys, but I think you're right. I think the Jets are done. And I think it's time for Aaron Rodgers to hang up the cleats.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
What do we think he goes on after this year? If this year continues to go the way it's going, is he coming back?
I don't see how you could, to be honest.
I don't think he's gonna. If it keeps going this way, I don't think he's gonna finish the season. I think they'll give him some phantom injury and give him an out or what have you because he doesn't want to save face. But I see him once they get to 8 or 9 losses, he's not going to be benched, right? He's not going to keep coming out and talking about drinking Cayenne Pepper Water or whatever he's doing. He's just gonna fade away, and he won't take any blame, right? He'll blame his coaching staff, he'll blame his players, he'll blame the environment, he'll blame the weather, he'll blame he'll blame he'll blame anything except taking responsibility. That's who he's been. That's who he'll continue to be. And he's going to have a great career in politics when his football career is over.
Chris, I mean, you've been saying it for a long time, too, the same stuff. And I don't know. Maybe this is the year that it just took me to really be like, yeah, Chris is right. Like, Aaron Rodgers is, at this point, a fraud. You know what I mean? Like,
he's just totally immobile, and with the way that the players are so fast on defense and the way that they play, you don't need a guy that can scramble, but you need a guy who can move in the pocket. Every quarterback in the NFL has to be able to shift and move in the pocket. He just stands there like a statue, and because he can't move because he's just old. I'm
Yeah.
39. Okay. He's older than I am. I'm 39. I pulled my muscle in my back, turning in my bed, like a few months ago. Like I know I'm not an NFL athlete, but like I hurt myself walking up the stairs. So like you can't, I know what it's like to be around 40. So
Hey,
he looks,
Eric. Chris
Yeah.
knows what it's like to be an athlete at the back end of their career.
no, I know what it's like to get hurt by not doing anything. And Aaron Rodgers is getting hurt by not doing anything. That's what he's doing.
He needs to be calling Brady and see what, get on that Brady diet. I mean, Brady, I think he won a Super Bowl at his age right now.
He was older. I think Brady was
Actually,
42.
okay. So,
yeah, and Brady was getting with his teammates in the offseason and running routes, and Brady was like in the lab, and Brady was a leader and took responsibility for when like the game didn't go his way. Aaron Rodgers the first thing from Tom Brady.
Instead of taking these revival trips and
ayahuasca, darkness retreats. I was bored. Yeah, we got Bane up in here. What was this phrase? He goes, "You merely adopted the dark." I was
born in it. All right.
Oh, what a joke. Oh, I love it. Sorry, I can't. It makes me so happy.
Our power rankings, because I'm sure there will be some talks about other teams that we didn't get to, but I'm sure the power rankings will bring that out. So, Chris, you're out this week. I'll leave it with you.
Out of the power. Let's start with who's out of the power rankings. Baltimore Ravens. Goodbye. You're done. You lose to the Browns and Jameis Winston. Worst pass defense in football, 291 yards a game. The next closest to Jacksonville at 271. You suck. All right. And then the other team out, Vikings, gone like a bullet. Sam Darnold ain't the guy. Vikings are out. So Baltimore Vikings are out. Number 5, we got to give love to the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, we already talked about them. I'm not going to go into it. They do have the second highest plus minus in the NFC behind another team we're going to talk about, and they have the number 3 offense in football, which is that's pretty high for them. So
slow as well, like offensively. Remember that?
Yeah, they've come around. Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's putting up 300-yard games like it's nobody's deal over here. So. Definitely good vibes in Washington, and let's see if they can sustain it. Number 4, I got my team, Green Bay Packers, 4-game winning streak, and their 2 losses, which actually look good now, are to the Eagles, who look better, and then the Vikings, who, and they only lost those 2 games by 7 points, and they have the number 5 offense in football, and they have the number 10 rush defense in football. Last year, they had the 28th rush defense in football, so they have new defense coordinator turned that around. Big matchup against the Lions. So I don't know if they're going to sustain that. Jordan Love's been, I don't think he's going to play. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Any disagreements there so far? Should I keep going? Good.
Yeah, you can keep going.
You ain't going to like this one. Number 3, Steel Curtain, baby. Pittsburgh Steelers, number 3. They got wins over the Falcons, Broncos, and Chargers, all teams over 500. They have the best defensive player in football. They have the second best coach in football, in my opinion. And Russell Wilson, come on, let's give it to Russ. Has a 112 quarterback rating, number 4 rush defense in football, number 1 team in that division that everybody told me Baltimore was absolutely positively going to win with no challengers. Pittsburgh Steelers, number 3.
Okay, first of all, no one said no challenges. Okay. We knew that was a tough division. I like the Steelers in there. I think they're going really well. Three's a little high.
A few weeks ago, when you said Baltimore is going to win that division, you and Derek both said it. I said, "What about Pittsburgh?" And you said, blah. You like threw up in your mouth.
Well, that was
so
because
now
I'm all in on Baltimore, and I still am. I think they'll come back. But Russell's looking good. I'm happy for him. I shout out to George Pickens, who didn't score a touchdown, but put down his left foot twice. That was pretty impressive. But no, they look really good. I mean, they've got a great defense, and they probably needed a little bit more than Justin Fields. Then they got Russell Wilson, who I think is like in the perfect offense now. Doesn't have to do too much. Najee Harris is playing pretty well. Just pump and dump. The defense did the rest. I like them.
Hey, if you love defense and field goal kicking, okay, you'd love the Pittsburgh Steelers because that's all they do. They play good defense and they kick like 8 field goals a game. So if you like 1950 style football, that's your team right there. All right,
Also,
they're not exciting.
Mark, I'm glad you mentioned Pickens. Is there a better wide receiver that's fitted for the Pittsburgh Steelers than George Pickens? I
No.
mean, he's such a physical wide receiver. Like, I love George Pickens. Love everything about him. He blocks. He does all the right things. You know, he doesn't get all the glory sometimes. I know there's not a high-powered offense, but George Pickens is a heck of a wide receiver.
My only concern for him and the Steelers is I see a little bit of Antonio Brown in him. You know, he's a little bit loose, a little bit, you know, he's on the edge a little bit. He performs really well, but if things start going wrong, you know, I hope he doesn't take too many hits to the head.
Concussions under control.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just something about Steeler wide receivers that turn divas, which I don't understand because like the Steelers, I don't know, that mindset of that team and that franchise just doesn't scream that to me, right? It screams hardworking, you know, steel curtain, like, you know, blue collar, like just like guys who put in the work, and their wide receivers are always a little diva-ish. I don't know why.
For sure.
We thought they were going to get someone in the trade deadline, and the trade deadline hadn't passed yet, but they haven't had a wide receiver yet, so we'll see what they'll do. All right. Number 2, Detroit Lions. I got to give love where it's due. They are shellacking people right now. They have the best record in the NFC. They have the best plus minus in football, and they have the number 6 offense. Amazing talent all around the team. I don't know. They got a arrest warrant out there for Jameson Williams. Doesn't impact them at all. Seems like it doesn't matter what's going on with this team. They've talked about adding a pass rusher. Dan Campbell said they're about to make a big splash here.
He was excited.
Said. Yeah.
Like,
so
he was giddy.
but they didn't release what it is. So I don't know if that means they're going to get, you know, a big guy or maybe like a Chase Daniels or I was thinking maybe it's a Darius Smith or some pass rusher or something like that. So I don't know, but I think they definitely deserve number 2 at this point. And number 1, I mean, there should be no debate here. Kansas City Chiefs, undefeated, 2-9 defending champions. They solved their only issue. They got Hopkins. They still got to work it out. They have wins over the Ravens, Falcons, Chargers, and 49ers. I don't care what their stats say. I don't care what their plus minus says. I don't care what Mahomes' numbers looks like. As long as they're undefeated, they will be number 1 on my list until they lose a game. So that's what I got. Comments, questions, concerns?
No, I mean, for Kansas City, I think it's just a matter of everyone else around me is falling down. I'm just going forward. So that's fair. The Lions, I think, are clearly the best team in at least the NFC, probably even football right now. Big game this week against Packers. I think it's where's it at?
It's in Green Bay, but I just Green Bay has our bye the week after that, and Jordan Love's got the groin. I don't think him or Jair are going to play, so I just think the Lions have the advantage in this game.
Where do you have your Packers at, Chris?
I have them at 4. They're at 4.
Had them at 4. Okay.
Yeah, I had them 4. The 2 teams that I thought about was Buffalo and Houston. Those are the 2 teams kind of on the border. Buffalo hasn't beat anybody. They have the worst strength of victory of all the contenders in the AFC at 326. They beat Arizona, Miami, Jacksonville, Jets, Titans, and Seahawks. Sorry, Mark. And then
what do you mean haven't beaten anyone?
Well, you know, and then the only teams they compete with, Baltimore and Houston in the AFC, they lost to both those teams, right? Same with Houston. They've beaten the Colts twice, which, Anthony Richardson is, we didn't get into that, but come on, man, you can't take yourself out of the game. And then they have wins against the Bears, Jags, and then they beat the Bills and the Patriots. And they're running out of wide receivers in Houston right now. So they need to get Stephon Diggs out for the year. Collins hadn't come back yet. So, they need to beat some better competition if they want to be in my top 5.
Fair. Any final words on that, Derek?
No, I think it was a pretty good list.
Look at that. That's a good list.
I think I would have I think there is an argument for the Bills to possibly be in the top 5. But I can't argue with your picks. I mean, maybe reversed on, you can get kind of nitpicky. But I do like Chiefs at 1, Lions at 2. Yeah, I think those 2 teams for sure are like the best teams right now in football. So
for sure,
facts, spitting facts over here.
Well, that list has changed a lot though, week on week. I mean,
it's going to change again.
So next week I'm up. The Ravens will be number 1 again. They just traded for Deontay Johnson. Before we go though, Chris, yes, you just brought it up, and I want to talk about it. What in the hell is Anthony Richardson thinking? First of all, to even take yourself out of the game because you're tired is insane. But then to admit it to the press, oh yeah, I was tired. Yeah, I'm just came back from injury. Are you kidding me? Like, that to me is so monumental because it's bigger than just like, oh, sit him out for a week. Like, that's like, I don't want you on my team. If you're gonna pull yourself out on a crucial third down, we're behind because you're tired. I don't want to play for you. I don't want you as my quarterback. He's been pretty bad already. Like, well, he was 2 for 15 at halftime on the weekend. So I just think for his career, and I might be overreacting, but for his career, that comment alone could really cost him because he hasn't got the skill or the tape to be like, oh, we'll give him a chance. Like, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to play when he's tired. I don't want him on my team. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I can't disagree with that at all. I hope he uses it as a young player as a learning experience. The biggest issue was that he didn't think there was anything wrong with it, right? That's why he admitted that he did it. He just acted like he was a running back who was just tired, who wanted to like tap out of the game. I think the Colts being 4-4 at this point with his quarterback play and the injuries they sustain is probably one of the most exceptional like performances as a team of the year for them to be at 500. And they've already played the Texans twice and lost to them in close games. But yeah, I'm going to sit him down and let Flacco play, and hopefully he can see what Joe Flacco does as not as a quarterback, but just as a professional athlete at quarterback. And I've been watching football for over 30 years. I've never seen a quarterback do that. That's unprecedented. And yeah, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a quarterback, if you want people to follow you, you can't. I don't care how tired you are. Then you fall. You hit the deck on the field and take yourself out of pure exhaustion. But you can't tap out. I can't. I am totally in agreement with you on that one.
If I'm his coach right now, I'm saying you're not playing again until you earn back the respect of like this organization.
Yeah, they benched him. They said it wasn't because of that, but I think we all know it was because of that. But yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't let him back in there this season. If it was me. But we'll see what they do.
I want to see him be the first person in, last person out, doing extras, like encouraging the other younger players and things like that. Like, I'd be really challenging him for the rest of this year for sure. Derek, he was a Florida boy. Emery, our Florida friend, he hated him. He said he's never going to make it in the NFL. So is this like, are you surprised by this? Or, I mean, I was surprised that the Colts took him so high.
I mean, I was surprised by the whole thing. You know, there's a few things is like you guys. I mean, you already said it. Like, one, it's a diva move. Two, you haven't proven anything. Like, I don't care how tired you are. Like, you crawl back to the huddle. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are the quarterback of a freaking NFL team. Like, that is, it's just ridiculous. Like, if I'm the owner, coach, like, yeah, like, dude, you're going to pay for that. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I didn't like it. Not a fan. And if I did, I mean, not that I was a fan before, but I'm definitely not now.
Yeah. He's already the reason why his team's lost games. So like, if you're going to be that guy who can't complete more than 40% of his passes, you can't do things like that.
And honestly, if Colts have any chance, like it might be with Flacco. You know what I'm saying? Like, they win.
Yeah, they look. I mean, when they announced Flacco's getting put in the game, the line got closer because like the bettors like Flacco more than they like freaking Anthony Richardson.
I mean, Flacco literally beat a guy that died on the field for comeback player of the year. He can do it. He
Did you see them too, like on the bench, like beside each other? It was at some point in the game, they were like sitting on the bench, and Anthony Richardson looked very just not in tune, like he was like, you know, cussing under his breath, not happy about whatever it was. And Flacco was right there beside him, and typically you see a veteran quarterback be like, hey, you know, kind of talking to him. Man, Flacco was just looking out onto the field, wasn't trying to console him. You could tell he's just like over that dude. Like,
send him to Green Bay. We turn broken quarterbacks into champions, like Malik Willis. Okay, send him to Green Bay. We'll coach him up there.
All right, send him to Green Bay. Send Jordan Love to Seattle, and we're good. All right.
Hold on. I mean, you're getting rid of Geno so fast.
Top 10. He's top 10.
He's actually number one for passing yards this season. But look, we won't talk about that. We're going to talk about Seahawks at the moment.
No.
Big games this week. We spoke about Lions, Packers,
Yep.
Boys, Falcons. I want to talk about that one because Cowboys are imploding fast. You have Trevon Diggs going into the locker room, looking at Twitter, seeing his name mentioned, going back out and tweeted it, getting into an argument with him. That's a terrible look. Dak doesn't look great. The coaching doesn't look awful. Big game for them. Must win.
Absolutely must win. This is their season. If they can't win this game, I think you can put a fork in them. They are done. And it's big bang for Atlanta too. Kirk Cousins, also known as was it Mr. Jekyll or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or whatever. You go good Kirk, bad Kirk, good Kirk, bad Kirk. So I never know what Kirk we're gonna see here. So it's a big game for both teams.
Yeah.
We need a you like that moment out of Kirk.
It's been a minute, hasn't it? I mean, when Seattle trounces you by 20 points, you got to be struggling. I don't think Joe Jones has ever made a mid-season coaching change, but is Mike McCarthy maybe on edge here? Because there's been so much at Dak and his contract and then Jerry Jones and the way he's been reacting. But Mike McCarthy just seems to be like, skipping along with no criticism. I mean,
it's his last year, so I think he knows that he's out after this year. So even if he doesn't make it this season, I think he's just kind of been reserved to his fate at this point.
I think if you're Jerry Jones, you're talking about Bill Snyder earlier, and I'm not comparing these two, but Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys have pissed away the last 25 years. It seems of any kind of, I think it's not even a head coach thing. Like, I think you might need to start cleaning out like staff, management. I mean, you really got to look in depth at this franchise. I mean, it is kind of the players, and it is, I know, absolutely. I'm just saying, like, you got to look at yourself, but then you got to look at everyone else, and like Jerry Jones has dropped the ball too as an owner. I mean, he's had some talented rosters, and they have not freaking won or put out like results.
Yeah, but the thing about Jerry Jones is, if you put him up to a lie detector, he'd rather be bad and relevant than good and nobody talk about him. That's all he cares about is the attention of the Cowboys. And no matter whether they're good or bad at this point, when you got the Dak contract, the CD contract, they are the first topic usually, other than the Jets, on every single sportscast, like all across the country. And that's what he has done to that team, and that's what he wants. He just wants people to talk about him and his Cowboys for good or for bad. And yeah, that's bad for the franchise if you want to win Super Bowls, but obviously it's made them the richest, franchise in the NFL at the same time. And
well, that's what I was going to say. Like,
it's like 80 years old now.
Yeah, but I mean, the revenue that they've generated, the fan base that they have, it's just a different. You can't just accept subpar results.
Yeah,
and they have done that for a very long time. Jerry Jones, like Mark said, it starts with you, and Jerry Jones is the face of that franchise. And I mean, yeah, that's it. That's all there is to it. Yeah, like you cannot be a Dallas. You got to start putting up some results, and they haven't done.
Yeah, a head coach can't be a puppet. As long as he keeps putting puppets in there, they'll never win Super Bowls, right? I mean, would a Bill Belichick ever go to a place like Dallas? Absolutely not, because he needs to run it his way. So I think until Jerry Jones,
Bill's the next guy. I think Joe Jones has to go after him.
He should, but I don't know if Bill wants to go there.
All right. That's going to do us this week. A little bit over time, but there's a lot to talk about. We'll be back next week with a full review of everything. If you have any questions for us, feel free to comment on the video or hit us up at Spotify or at Gmail, the Fans Huddle podcast.
I think let us know how we're doing.
Yeah.
We want you to comment. Even if you diss us, we'll take it.
We'll take anything. Hey guys, have a great week.
All right. See you next time.
See ya.